This is as far as you go. No more. This is it.
Shh! It's the Film Flamers.
Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And we are bringing you some more summer blockbuster content and starting a new franchise.
That's right.
Finishing a franchise, hopefully this month.
Yeah, I think so, actually.
Yeah.
Because the last couple of years we've been going through, as part of our summer blockbusters, we have been going through the Alien franchise. And related to that is the Predator franchise, for better or for worse.
That's right.
Right. So we've already covered Alien vs. Predator over on Patreon. So now we are kicking off the Predator franchise in kind of a chronological order, timeline order, whatever.
Yeah.
With the latest entry, actually, which is 2022's Prey.
Which Chris and I both found very, very good whenever we watched it last year when it was released.
That's right. Surprising. Right?
I feel like we watched it right around release time, too. Like, we were looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was released on Hulu, not in the theaters.
That's right. So this is the first time that we have deep dove into a movie that has no box office, like, history. It never played at a theater.
Is this also the first movie from the 2020s that we've covered, maybe?
I don't know the answer to that question, but it's certainly the most recent.
Okay.
So, lots of firsts in this episode.
That's right.
But not the first in the Predator series. So Prey is a 2022 American science fiction action film directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Aison. Part of the Predator franchise, Prey is the 7th film in the overall franchise and a prequel to the first 4 films. It stars Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers, Dane DiLiegro, Michelle Thrush, Stormee Kipp, Julian Black Antelope, and Bennett Taylor. The score was composed by Sarah Schachner.
The story revolves around a young Comanche woman, Naru, who is striving to prove herself as a hunter. She finds herself having to protect her people from a vicious humanoid alien that hunts humans for sport, as well as from French fur traders who are massacring the buffalo they rely on for survival. The film was shot in English, with words and phrases of Comanche sprinkled throughout, but later the film was fully dubbed in Comanche by the cast, making it the first film to have a full Comanche dub.
Ooh. Okay, listeners. This is as far as you go. No more. This is it. Except keep listening. This is Prey.
Why do you want to hunt?
Because you all think that I can't. I saw a sign in the sky. I'm ready.
Maui Nita.
There's something out there. I'm coming with you.
You can't.
I'm trying to protect you.
Protect me from what? It's time.
It knows how to hunt. I know how to survive. Whatever did this, I can kill it.
In the Great Plains of North America in 1719, a young Comanche woman, Naru, played by Amber Midthunder, dreams of becoming a Disney princess, as the Mouse Company now owns 20th Century Studios. But which princess should she model her audition after? She has, in fact, heard the wolf cry to the blue-corn moon, but Pocahontas seems too easy. She's trained as a healer, but longs to be a great hunter like her brother, Tob, played by Daniel Beavers, so she goes for Mulan instead, despite the misgivings of her mother, Aruka, played by Michelle Thrush. One day, while tracking deer with her patented Disney sidekick, a dog, Sari, Naru sees strange lights in the sky and believes this to be a thunderbird, and a sign that she is ready to prove herself to be a hunter. She tells Tob that she is ready for the rite of passage, which involves her hunting something that is also hunting her. As luck would have it, a member of the tribe has been taken by a lion, and a search party is formed. Much to the party's chagrin, Naru tags along. They find the wounded tribesman and make him ready for the trip home. Naru finds strange, large tracks and a skinned rattlesnake, and she and another tribesman remain behind with Tob to hunt the mountain lion. Naru devises a plan to trap the mountain lion and comes face to face with the large cat high in a tree. During the kitty kerfuffle, she's distracted by strange lights and sounds in the distance. She falls out of the tree and knocks herself unconscious. She awakens from her audition at Sleeping Beauty, finding that she was carried home by Tob, who later returns carrying the dead mountain lion and is named War Chief. Convinced that there is greater danger in the woods, Naru and Sari set out to kill the threat and prove herself a hunter. Forgetting that Warner Brothers has yet to be purchased by Disney, she stumbles into the swamps of sadness and is momentarily trapped. Remember your Atreyu training, she thinks. She has to try. She has to care. She pulls herself out of the bog only to be surprised by a bear. Later on. What?
Later on.
It's true. Naru is trapped by the bear, which is suddenly attacked and killed by an invisible creature. Naru escapes and runs into a search party sent to retrieve her. She fights back against them, but the group of men is attacked by the same invisible creature. Naru is clever and notices 3 strange lights that serve as targets for the arrows deployed by this creature. All but one man is killed, and he and Naru escape into the tall grass, where the final man is killed. Naru is caught by a foot trap, and the creature spares her, but a group of big, stinky French fur trappers do not. They capture and cage her and Sari. The group's interpreter, Raphael, played by Bennett Taylor, questions Naru about the creature, whom they have encountered as well. When she refuses to talk, they reveal that they have also captured Tob. They give him some old-fashioned torturing and decide to use them both as bait for the creature, whom they intend to capture. The creature arrives and kills most of the Frenchmen, while Naru and Tob escape. Naru returns to the camp to save Sari and finds Raphael, who teaches her to use her pistol in exchange for her skills as a healer, since he's missing a leg now. She gives him herbs that reduce his body heat to slow the bleeding. The creature arrives, and Raphael plays dead. Naru realizes that the creature can't see him due to his cooler body. After it accidentally steps on Raphael, he screams and is immediately killed.
Ow, my severed leg!
My phantom limb! You stepped on my phantom limb!
Merde.
Meowed. Okay. Tob arrives on horseback, and together they weaken the creature, but Tob is ultimately killed. Naru flees and finds a surviving Frenchman, who she uses as bait. She uses the pistol to ambush the creature, knocking off its mask. She steals the helmet and lures the creature back into the bog. She positions the mask to face the swamps of sadness. The creature becomes mired in the swamp, but has no Atreyu training. Instead of trying or caring, it fires the projectiles at Naru and misses. The mask guides the arrows into the creature, killing it. Victorious, Naru severs its head and paints her face with its green blood. She returns to the camp with the head, where she's declared the new war chief and Disney princess. She tells her tribe that it's time to move. A series of indigenous paintings depict Naru's successful rite of passage. But the final painting shows the tribe witnessing the arrival of 3 strange vessels in the sky.
The end? Prey premiered at San Diego Comic-Con on July 21st, 2022, and then was later released on the streaming service Hulu on August the 5th. According to 20th Century Studios, Prey was the most-watched premiere across all films and television series on Hulu in the United States, and was the most-watched program across all platforms during the week of August the 12th.
Prey holds a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes and is certified fresh, obvi. The audience score currently sits at 73%, though, so it's quite the little window there. We've seen way bigger windows than that.
We have, but I'm surprised at this.
Yeah, so the site's consensus reads, the rare action thriller that spikes adrenaline without skimping on character development, Prey is a Predator sequel done right. So we can compare that score to the original film, Predator, which holds an 81% critic score, but an 87% audience score.
Ooh.
So a little bit of a nostalgia boner going there for the collective audiences.
And I'm sure that we'll talk about that score a little bit more next week whenever we do Predator as well, right?
Right.
So
Metacritic gave the film a weighted average score of 71 out of 100, indicating generally favorable reviews, and it became the highest rated Predator film on both websites.
So, I mean, obviously critics think this one is the best.
And it is. But of course, I haven't seen Predator in like 15 years, so I might be eating my words next week.
I have not seen it in a very long time either. Maybe even longer than that. So,
Wow.
Yeah, looking
Okay,
forward.
get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. David Fear of Rolling Stone referred to the film as a long-awaited masterpiece and series highlight, and compared Midthunder's character favorably to Ellen Ripley of the Alien films. Andrew Webster of The Verge admired how patient it is, adding, "What Prey makes work is its simplicity. It never strays from its concept, instead slowly building up the tension before reaching a very exciting battle." Balin Edwards of Mashable called it intimate and character-driven, with more than enough action to satisfy the most die-hard Predator fans. Even if you've never watched a Predator movie, chances are you'll love Prey. It's just that good.
I would say especially.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have seen any.
You don't?
I would say actually all of the Predator films are kind of standalone.
I mean, it's a good prequel in a sense that, yeah, I mean, well, Predator 2 kind of...
It's a completely different place and time and none of the same characters, right?
I feel like this character maybe just lends itself to that then. I don't know, but I mean, this movie especially, like, you can have no knowledge. It's just a character that's there. You don't have to ask, you don't have to question why it's there, you know? So, perfect.
In a 3.5 out of 4-star review, Odie Henderson of RogerEbert.com praised Naru's character in the representation of the Comanche Nation and called the film, quote, a scary and fun amusement park ride that also elicits a surprisingly tender emotional response. Wendy Ide, in a 4-star review in The Observer, said that Prey stays true to the essence of the original, stylishly violent, stickily graphic, and possibly tense, but that it was also successful as a, quote, self-contained entity. Just like we said.
Stickily graphic.
Stickily graphic.
There's some accolades and legacy, and another first for the Film Flamers. At the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, it was nominated for Best Lead Performance, but that lost to Mia Goth and Pearl.
Wow.
Yeah. It won Best Creature Effects, Best Costume Design, and Best Streaming Premiere Film.
At the Primetime Emmy Awards that are pending, that's the first, right?
Yep.
It's up for Outstanding Directing and Outstanding Writing.
And at the Creative Arts Emmys, which are kind of combined in the same award ceremony, I think. These are also pending. It's nominated for Best Outstanding Television Movie, Outstanding Music Composition, Outstanding Editing, and Outstanding Sound Editing.
If it doesn't win for Outstanding Television Movie, I'm going to flip fucking tables.
Yes, for sure. Like, I've never wanted to watch the Emmys so much in my life. Mostly, I don't give a shit about the Emmys, but like...
Right. Like, actually, this year, I'm really into it. Now, especially since I know this is up for Emmys, which is interesting to me. Like, I don't think of movies necessarily when I think of Emmys.
I mean, we have to stop thinking about...
But it's TV is streaming, right? So
Yeah.
that's what it's up for. And then also I watched something called Jury Duty, which is also up for 4 Emmys. So I'm like, I'm into it.
So now is the time. A lot of movies are submitting themselves as film, like to the Oscars, right? Instead of the Emmys. And I assume that the creators of Prey submitted it to the Television Awards, the Television Academy, maybe because they have a higher chance of winning.
No,
you know,
I think because they had to, because it didn't have a theatrical release at all. Zero.
That's
Nothing.
right.
Not
But
one theater.
back when this movie was released, like a lot of people were not having that rule. Even the Oscars didn't. If it premiered on a streaming service, you could submit it. Now the rules have changed.
I think they changed right around the time. I think this was a really, we're going to talk about this, right? Because this was a really, this is the last of the day and dates.
Yep.
And all of that ink had dried probably about a year before it came out. because everyone, including us, was talking about, why is this not being released in the theater? Everything else is in the theaters now.
That's right. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the pandemic had died down a little bit by then.
A lot. This was literally this time last year, basically, right?
It has been a year. Oh my God, we're doing this right on the anniversary of its like streaming release.
Apparently.
Wow, we just waited a full year for you guys to do it.
Didn't even know it. I felt like it came out like in 2020 or something, but no, it's only been a year and I've already seen this movie 3 times.
You've seen it 3 times already?
I saw it when it came out. I saw it because I wanted to show someone.
Yeah.
I think I might have shown Matt.
Okay.
And then we realized, hey, we're going to do the Predator franchise. I was like, why not start with this one? Because it's such a joy to watch.
That's right. I think originally we were going to put this in a Patreon category, were we not? Right? And that is a mistake. Like
yeah, we were going to go Predator, Predator 2. And then we're like, no, we need to do a deep dive on Prey.
Yeah, Prey's a very good movie.
Yeah. Prior to the film's release, Trachtenberg stated in June that there are discussions for additional installments to be developed after the release of Prey, saying that their intent was to, quote, do things that have not been done before in the franchise. Well, you already did that.
Yep. Apparently, the internet officially wants a samurai Predator film.
I like that. I like the premise of going through different points in time for Predators, you know, but they might make a common franchise mistake, which is to literally just commit to the high concept and really focus on the Predator instead of this movie. The Predator is almost incidental.
I would agree.
Right? Which is the right way to do it.
Agreed 100%.
Right.
The best parts of this movie have nothing to do with the villain. And I like so much about this movie is that the Predator is invisible for like 95% of its screen time.
The Predator brings a bunch of movie baggage, for better or worse, mostly for better, because there's a huge fan base out there, right? So it adds a layer of mythology and meaning that maybe people don't appreciate or know about if they're watching this in isolation, right? And they have never seen another Predator movie.
Which is good for a streaming movie.
Enjoyable for both. And they add a lot of tidbits and Easter eggs for the people that are fans of the franchise, right? So it already adds this huge layer to it, you know, so why not leave it at that?
I mean, I agree. That's well said.
Perfect.
So,
speaking of some of the best parts of this movie, let's talk about the cast.
Oh my God, this cast is fucking stellar.
They really stuck to their guns as far as hiring people that are of actual Native American descent.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the people who are cast in those roles are indigenous, right?
Yes,
so, like all of them.
So everyone that you saw playing an indigenous character is indigenous or has that heritage, right? And some of them even were Comanche heritage on some side, you know, starting with Amber Midthunder as Naru, right? And I only remember her from a TV show called Legion with one of our favorite horror actor guys that ended up playing Beast in the stupid live action Beauty and the Beast. What is his name? He was in The Guest.
Dan
Stevens. He's been in everything. He's such an eclectic career, right? He was on fucking Downton Abbey.
Yeah, he was on Downton Abbey. He was in The Guest, right? He's incredibly good looking. And I have not seen Legion, although I kind of wanted to based on like the
it's very horror. And of course, Amber Midthunder's clone, Aubrey Plaza, bigger sister, plays the main bad guy in that film.
Really?
In that TV series. It's really worth seeing. It's very horror. It's a horror show.
So I've not recognized her from anything. You know what I mean? But I looked her up on IMDb and I was like, she has a pretty large career in television, right? And I'm like, I'm surprised that I at least haven't heard her name before Prey. Of course, like after this movie, I learned what her name was because I thought she does an amazing job in this movie. She really carries this movie really, really well. She's a really great action heroine and is believable like from start to finish in this movie. And I feel she's a really good actress. So.
Right. And speaking of really good actors, the guy who plays her brother, this is his first time ever in a movie or filmed role at all. And his name is Dakota Beavers and he played Tob. Right. And, like for his first acting role ever.
No, I mean, like I wouldn't have known that.
He basically, like along with her, he kind of carries the movie because this movie is like centered around 3 characters, right? Amber, really, 90% of it. And then the other is like her brother and then her mother. Well, his mother too, right? Who's played by Michelle Thrush, who's been in shit tons of stuff, right?
I would say, I mean, like if you're going to throw any other actors into this, I would say like the guy who plays like the really salty tribesman who looks like Rufio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
You know
one with
what
the
I'm
red
talking about?
mohawk. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah.
Every time I see him on screen, I'm like, Rufio.
I mean, he does a good job too. And I feel like out of those four people sort of like represent like the main characters in this movie.
Yeah. And some of the Frenchmen, really.
Yes.
Honestly.
I mean, well, and one in particular, the guy who plays like Raphael,
Yeah.
right?
Everyone is fucking bringing it.
Mm-hmm. They
in this
really
movie.
are.
Yeah.
And I want to talk later on about like those Frenchmen in general and the way that they're presented in the movie. But like he obviously is the main one because he's speaking in English, right? So we pay attention to him more. But what else is, so her mom, Michelle Thrush, has been in a lot of things too.
Yeah, she's been in a lot, and I think she was up for an Emmy not too long ago. But a bunch of, I think she's Canadian,
Okay.
and I think she's in a bunch of like Canadian-led TV shows, and just she's been on a bit character since like I think she was like even on Highlander or something as like a Native American girl
Wow.
back in the early '90s or something. But she's obviously a nice warm presence in this film.
She really is. I mean, and like she acts so motherly toward both of her children. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't outrightly tell her daughter that she shouldn't be a hunter, you know? She reminds her gently. She's like, but you're so good at this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I taught you all of that.
Right. And so, but she never says like, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. She doesn't tell her no, you know? And
It's also alluded that they lost their father to whatever cause. She's like, your father didn't give you that axe to kill
that's right.
or to hunt,
Or
right?
to heal.
Yeah.
She was good. I really, really enjoyed that. I like this entire family, actually. Like, it's believable to me that they're a family unit,
Yeah.
you know? And again, we don't get to spend a lot of time getting to understand the rest of their community, you know, or getting to know those characters, except for maybe Rufio. And we don't need to, you know, I kind of get an idea of what their community is like just based upon that one family unit, right? It really tells a lot about where they live and who they like habitate with just based on those three.
Another thing I really think is interesting about this cast and really all the characters, especially on the indigenous side, is they're all so earnest. All these characters are so earnest. There's not really lies or you know, manipulations going on. If a character's angry, they're angry and they're going to say, you're going to come back with us, you know, blah, 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 you know? Yeah. But the brother and the sister relationship here I thought was really, really interesting and cool because there's this jealousy kind of component to it. There's also like, you know, trying to take care of each other kind of situation. They both try and save each other at some point or warn each other about things. And to see that kind of come full circle with, you know, him believing in her and then being so worried about her, he wants to keep her safe.
Right.
And then coming back to believe her again and them working together as equals at the end. And then his death was, you know, you felt it.
Well, I think you feel it kind of early on too, because when they're hunting that mountain lion, right? And she comes up with this idea and he's like, we're going to try her idea.
Yep.
You know, he just
Stands up for her.
Yeah. He's like, no, we're going to do this.
Versus everyone else. All the other like warriors are essentially either kind of apathetic towards her or outwardly aggressive.
Right.
Against the idea of her hunting with them.
And I mean, is it because she's a woman? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that's what I got too. Although it's not like in your face, you know what I mean? Like it's implied, but they don't actually say ever like, well, you're a woman, you can't do this. Right.
It's against the gender norm, but not against the law.
Right.
Right.
And I feel like in a situation like they live in, right? I mean, it's a time period and certainly a cultural thing. I mean, like you have to be able to eat and survive. And if someone has a natural ability to do something, I feel like they wouldn't say, no, you can't do that because you're a woman. Like those norms probably don't exist the way they do now.
She had
right?
excellent skills as a tracker and excellent skills as a healer.
That's right.
You know, and, you know, a hunter or really a gatherer, right? And so that's what she was kind of meant to do and a maker along with her mother. But she didn't want to just do that. She admired what her father had done, I'm assuming, and admires certainly what her brother is doing and all of the honor and glory that he's getting, although he's not basking in it. He's not asking for it. He just is that way, you know, which makes it even more attractive to her, you know?
Well, that, and I feel like there is some sort of rivalry going on, but a lot of it is like ribbing to each other. You can tell that they're close as siblings, right? With that one scene where they're like trying to shoot that hawk out of the sky, right? Mm-hmm. And he's telling a story and she pretends to sleep and then he actually kills the bird. And she's like, well, now you have to walk across the water to get it. You know, I mean, like,
it's just like that, you know, back and forth. Yeah.
It's a really good like sibling relationship. And you're right when you say like, it's a good family unit. And it's kind of refreshing to see a movie where it's not a lot of fighting and not a lot of finger pointing and not a lot of saying, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. The interpersonal bullshit,
yes,
you know, is non-existent almost, except for just like the situational stuff. that's kind of built into the culture. And when there is contention, like actual animosity between the humans, generally it's either because of that culture or it's between two different groups of people, like the French. Yeah. Right. And so I think that a lot of that's kind of baked in too, but they really take their time with it. One of the reviewers was like, one of the best things about this movie is that it takes its time. Right. It's not afraid of, slowly ramping up the tension, but it breaks the tension with big action pieces throughout the movie, not just at the end.
Action pieces.
Right. And yet we still feel like we're getting those moments where we can soak in the fucking landscape.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
And so it's just like, it's such a rare film. Like, I feel like it's made the way, ironically, or maybe even unironically, the way Ridley Scott used to make movies, which was really taking their time, but still having those action beats, kind of like Alien.
And I also going to another reviewer, her character being like Ellen Ripley is not too far off. You know what I mean? She's resourceful and resilient in ways that Ellen Ripley is, right? She's literally Ellen Ripley in like a different time period, right? And setting, right?
Yeah.
And is fully capable in ways that a lot of like heroines in horror are, but this one I feel like is especially capable. If I had to go out into the woods, the person I would pick to go with me is Naru, like every fucking day of the week.
Hell yeah.
Because she can keep me fed, she can help me in my severed leg, and I like her dog.
Oh, speaking of which, Coco was a puppers that was adopted and trained just for this movie.
I love his dog.
Yeah, Coco as Sari. And the idea of giving Naru a dog companion was actually inspired by Mad Max 2. And that's not the first reference to Mad Max that we're going to have.
Yeah.
Initially, Coco was to be in a lot fewer scenes, but they found that with her training and her energy level, they were able to include the dog in a lot more scenes, including some of the action sequences. So the special note here is like, and this is going to come up again and again with the level of detail they go into here, is that she is a Carolina dog, which is a rare breed of wild dog that followed the first humans to cross the Bering Strait 16,000 years ago.
That is very interesting because I was, watching this and I'm like, I don't recognize that breed of dog really. I can't really pinpoint what it is. It's not something that I just looks like dog all the time. Yeah, it's just like if you were to look up dog in the dictionary.
Yeah, and what you're really looking at is proto dog.
So that's really cool. This dog has a lot of fucking personality though. And you could tell that I don't know. It just seemed like a really good boy, or whatever.
I love that she's speaking Comanche to it and giving it hand signals and its understanding, and at least in the film,
I just really loved this. There are often times we'll see animals on film, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine.
And that dog almost dies 3 times.
That's
less
right.
Than 3. It was like the bear. It's almost killed, and then it's almost killed by the humans, the Frenchmen, and then it's almost killed by the predator, and it's saved each time.
That's right.
It also saves her from the bear. So they're like, and all of this is done with visual storytelling, but mind you, none of this is in the dialogue. This is very low dialogue film, right? So really all of this, we're just watching this and taking this all in and getting all this meaning out of it.
That dog, though.
I know.
This made me so happy. I was just like, oh, I miss my puppy.
Because there's a lot of animal death in this movie.
There really is. And I know that like with a dog acting that sort of way, and it's such an energetic,
but they don't kill the fucking dog.
They don't kill the dog. Because I feel like after like a near bunny death and like mice, like cute little mice being eaten and shit like that, I feel like if the dog died, like people would have rioted. You would have lost your audience, or at least a part of them.
I guess technically you only see one animal death, right? And that's the wolf.
The wolf dies. Well, the bear dies.
Yeah. Okay. The bear dies. The wolf kills a rabbit, or at least catches it in its mouth.
But it seems to escape.
And yeah, it does, because you see it after. That's right. And then it kills and skins the wolf, or actually takes out its spine.
And it skins the snake, and the snake kills a rat.
Yeah, but it shows like the mouse killing an insect. And then the snake killing that. So it's watching for prey.
Exactly.
It wants to get the highest level of prey it has access to in its immediate vicinity at all times.
So, and I don't know if you had planned on talking about this
later. Rather. It wants to catch other predators.
I don't know if you plan on talking about this later on in the conversation or not, but I feel like this predator seems to be like it's on its own journey to prove itself, right? Like it's been dropped off alone to either...
Kind of like we saw in AVP.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So, I mean, obviously it's what that, group of aliens do, but it is here to like prove itself in some sort of way, right? And it has to start by learning like what it should be afraid of and what it needs to kill. So it's like step by step going up the fucking food chain.
Yeah, there's also a little bit more detail about that later on too.
Great.
So yeah,
I love it.
Before we get into the actual talk of like the film more, and we already have been really, but I kind of want to talk about Dan Trachtenberg a little bit.
Okay. He's got a long career.
He's our age, right? He's actually in between me and your age.
Okay.
And it's kind of cute, actually.
I didn't look him up.
Yeah. So this guy, like, I didn't even know who he was really. And I had looked it up before a little bit, but this guy is kind of like a man after my own heart, right? So he actually started in podcasting. Just like a nerd show about movies, and they'd begin every episode reenacting a scene from one of their favorite horror movies or these other things, right? And so it was on the Totally Rad Show from 2007 to 2012. He didn't make his first movie until 2012. So that's how he got his start. And he started making commercials like for Lexus, Coca-Cola, Nike. I don't know the timeline here, but at some point he made a short film back in 2011 called Portal No Escape. And that went viral. He did not have access to the franchise, which is a video game, which is an amazing video game series. But he made this short film and it went absolutely viral. This is back in 2011 and it was a great film.
Don't you have like a Portal piece of memorabilia or like a...
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the little guns or whatever. But the portal gun is where you shoot the wall, then it becomes a portal and you can walk through it and you shoot another one. You can walk through portals. And so he had to really show in live action, took 1.5 years post-production for this short film to show this person using portals to get around to space and to try and escape like a jail cell and all that stuff. And it was really, really well done. I remember watching it back then and just being blown away. So I'm guessing that kind of kicked off his career, just doing a short film, releasing it for free on YouTube, and taking it around and trusting himself that he didn't get fucking sued, I guess. But he eventually got invited to do like Black Mirror. He did the episode with Wyatt Russell. That was called Playtest, giant spiders and shit in that one.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he did an episode of The Boys. He did the pilot of The Lost Symbol in 2021. And he's apparently trying to make a new show based on the movie Waterworld.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, don't do that, Dan.
I know.
Oh, no. Watch the movie again. You'll change your mind.
But anyway, he made before all this, he made some short films like More Than You Can Chew, which was just part of the Black Box TV horror anthology.
Okay.
And then he made like a short film for the game Warframe. But his first movie ever was in 2016 with 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Which is a fucking amazing
Which came out of fucking nowhere. Your first movie and it's John Goodman acting his little heart out with Mary Elizabeth fucking Winstead.
That's right. Also acting her little heart out. I really, really love 10 Cloverfield Lane. I mean, like, there will come a time when we talk about that movie on this podcast because I loved the fuck out of it.
So he's done a bunch of stuff that we've loved. He came from like a similar background. We've already talked about doing shorts ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just showing me like a career that this guy kind of built for himself without any kind of nepotism or anything like that, without a whole bunch of money, And so 10 Cloverfield Lane coming out of nowhere. In fact, the anecdote for that is that it wasn't actually supposed to be a Cloverfield. The studio was like, we want this to actually make money because it's good. So we're going to stamp this name on it.
And put the shit at the end of it.
Yeah.
So,
which I'm sure he was more than happy with, actually, judging by his history now.
I'm sure. And I mean, like, that movie works. Even with that additional ending added into it or like making it part of like the Cloverfield mythology, it still fucking works,
Yeah. So it's just like after doing all this shit, like the short film that he can prove he can do franchises unasked for, he can do 10 Cloverfield Lane with a mantle of something put on top of it. And it worked really, really well. It was up for a lot of awards. I think he won something for Directors Guild for like best first time director or something.
That's possible.
And then that's around the time when that came out, he started writing with his writing partner, Prey.
Well, and it goes to show you too. I mean, like if he's done these things like that short film based on, another kind of like IP, right? Yeah. And if you're good at that sort of thing and you show some sort of reverence, you can do what you want with these properties. Like there's no rules. Really.
Exactly. Respect, passion. Right?
Yes.
We want someone passionate behind this stuff.
You have to have those things. I mean, like if you were to make a movie like Prey and not be as reverent to like the Predator itself, it would have been terrible, kind of trash, right? And not a fit in the franchise in some sort of way. And I think he changes the Predator enough in this movie to make it interesting and fresh and still be kind of reverent to the source material.
Yeah. So the film began development during the production of the prior Predator film titled The Predator from 2018. I actually haven't seen it.
I like it.
It has like a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's probably why I didn't see it. Plus, it was directed by Shane Black, who is a huge writer in Hollywood. He also directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Iron Man 3, which I'm not a huge fan of, but Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is an amazing film.
Yep, I like it a lot.
And then he was the writer for The Long Kiss Goodnight, Lethal Weapon 1 and 2. Like, he's a competent writer and is certainly an accomplished director in his own right. And so I'm just like, this second time director comes from behind and like makes this deal while you're making that film. I just think it's funny. But him and his writing partner, Patrick Aison, went to the producer of that film, John Davis, and, said, here's our concept. We've been working on it for a few years. Here it is. Do you want to do it? And they saw, okay, this is Dan Trachtenberg. He just did 10 Cloverfield Lane, and he did like that, that big viral short film for Portal a few years before that. So the 20th Century Studios production president, Emma Watts, fast-tracked the development for the film immediately. She's like, this person wants to do this movie with this thing. Before this movie's the Predator 2018 was even released, they greenlit him.
Well, I feel like they felt that The Predator was going to be a bigger movie than probably what it turned out to be.
That's weird, though, because it was during production of The Predator, right? So it's just like the normal response would be, hey, buddy, we're literally making this movie right now. We're literally in production. Go back. We'll come back to you after if we want to garner another sequel. But no, they were like immediately pounced on him. We're like, we're already making this movie, but feel free to make your own sequel over here while we're still working on this one.
I mean, it's kind of smart.
When does that happen?
It doesn't, but that's really, it makes business sense to me, because if you have two movies that are sort of like being pitched around the same time or one being made literally at one time, like go ahead and like have one in the back burner just in case it's good. And if it turns out to be bad and ill received, at least you have something to sort of like swoop in and save the day. So you're not killing a franchise completely with a movie, Yeah. Like Emma Watts seems like a good head for business and movie making, but comparatively, like The Predator and Prey are vastly different, and one is way better than the other one, like obviously,
for sure.
But there was another Predator movie that came out before The Predator, just called Predators.
I saw that one. That's with Brody. Whatever.
Adrian Brody's in that one. Yeah, and I like that movie too. Yeah. I think I just like Predator movies, but I don't know. This one is like superb, though.
So cast auditions were held in February 2020, right before everything was shut down for the COVID-19 pandemic. Right. But by November, what was then a secretive production called Skulls was revealed to be the codename for the fifth installment in the Predator franchise. I guess the seventh, really, if you include the AVP movies, right?
Correct, yeah.
So upon the announcement, Trachtenberg actually indicated that the original intention was to market the film with no reference to Predators and make it a surprise in the theater, something that obviously was no longer possible with the confirmation of the film's place in the franchise.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't think that's super realistic. That smacks of like inexperience in the studio system. They're going to take advantage of everything so they don't have to spend an extra $50 million marketing a film when they already have, a
built-in fan base.
They're not going to do that, buddy.
Nope. They certainly are not.
Unless it's some sort of Easter egg. You're like in Predator 2.
I mean, maybe though he learned that from this like 10 Cloverfield Lane experience, right? Although I feel like by the time that movie came out, we were all like expecting it to be a Cloverfield movie just based on the title.
And now with all this multiverse, like franchise greedy bullshit, we're probably going to get some sort of mashup with like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Amber Midthunder, and everyone else has fought a Predator to do some sort of like Thunderdome.
Oh God.
Post Thunderdome.
We don't need another Predator.
Okay, Tina.
We let in, Tina.
So on November 12th, 2021, the Disney Plus day, apparently, I didn't know Disney Plus had a day, the film was given the title Prey and announced for a mid-22 release on Hulu and Disney Plus internationally. Dumb.
Really fucking dumb.
Dumb. I remember thinking that was dumb at the time. And I'm like, okay, they really obviously don't have any faith in this movie. They're not even going to try and put it in the theaters, which really leads me to think that the story must be that this was like inked at the beginning and it was just too late.
I mean, we all have hindsight now, and I think that whether or not you have faith in a movie at that particular junction, right? Movies that we thought were going to do really well in the theater at this point were not doing well.
Well, I think Disney had just also bought Hulu and they wanted to use it as a vehicle to kick off Hulu's release, right? Like, so it's like,
I mean, that's possibly true. Cause yeah, by the time that, you know, Disney Plus rolled around or a little shortly after, like Disney was like, we have Disney Plus, we have Hulu, ESPN, National Geographic. All these things are like bumped into one streaming service. So maybe they needed something really, really big. And still, like Disney Plus would never, at least in America, Disney Plus doesn't have any movies like Prey on it. You know, I think internationally, Disney Plus is called like Star or something like that.
Deadpool on it now.
Does it really?
I think so.
Oh my gosh. Well, look at Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So maybe they're making some headway. But I mean, like internationally, Disney Plus has a lot more adult oriented things on it.
Disney Plus has like an interesting way that's set up. It's kind of like walled gardens. So I don't think they would ever, unless it was a new release, I don't think they would ever like advertise that on their homepage, especially if it's like a kid's profile.
No.
You know, but like you can go to the Marvel walled garden, into the Star Wars walled garden, to the Simpsons walled garden, you know?
Which is pretty much where I stay.
Yeah.
At least as far as Disney Plus is concerned. But yeah, no, this is ridiculous. I feel like if this movie were released in the theater, like maybe not the strongest opening weekend, but this would be a word of mouth like sleeper hit.
I really think so too.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this movie would have made some fucking money.
And I would have loved to see it in the theater.
I still want to. Like on this rewatch, I was like, I feel like I need to experience this movie on a big screen. Like just some of the way that it looks, right? And the way that it's been filmed and like the sweeping fucking landscapes. And I was like, it is just beautiful. And it looks great on like a really good TV, but can you fucking imagine on like a huge fucking like IMAX type screen or whatnot?
Yeah.
Like it would just be almost fucking immersive.
So Trachtenberg explained his goal for the film was to get back to the roots of the franchise, saying, quote, the ingenuity of a human being who won't give up, who's able to observe and interpret, basically being able to beat a stronger, more powerful, well-armed force.
Yeah.
That's Alien and Predator too, right?
That is both those movies, like to a T.
Yeah. So filming occurred in Calgary, Alberta, Canada in 2021, primarily in Stoney, Dakota First Nation land, 45 minutes outside of the city, with studio set pieces including the Beaver Dam, where Nairo hides from a bear, and the Fur Trapper Camp, where she baits the predator. Additional locations included Moose Mountain and Elbow River.
I like the names for things in Canada.
I know.
Well, let's just head on down to Moose Mountain. You're going to cross Elbow River. Hey, I'm sorry, that's really offensive to
simpler
Canadians.
time.
But okay, so the area they filmed this in was 45 minutes outside of Calgary, outside of a city. That's a really short drive to something that beautiful.
Jane Myers, a member of both the Comanche Nation and the Blackfeet Nation, served as one of the producers on the film. So not only is the cast, there's a producer that's actually working on this that's Indigenous. And describing filming near Calgary, Myers said, quote, we were shooting on Stoney Nakota land. Amber Midthunder is part Nakota. Even I am on my grandmother's side. Usually when we start a production, someone from the native community comes in and does a cedar ceremony and blesses everything. But because we had so many Indigenous people in the cast, First Nation people too, and since we were on True Plains land, they sent out just 2 pipe carriers and 2 smudge people to have a pipe ceremony instead of like cleansing, blessing, or protecting. They simply just brought everyone together in a spiritual commitment.
It must have been an amazing opportunity, or at least experience, for all these people to be able to work together on a movie like this. It does not happen very often.
No, the other thing I can think of is like where there's like a community like that, you know, and speaking the language and different things would be like Dances with Wolves, you know?
And even then, I mean, we had some people playing Indigenous people who were not, right? So, I mean... No?
Dances with Wolves, I believe it was 100% as well.
Really?
Yeah, and they were actually speaking Lakota, which is now a completely dead language. Dances with Wolves is special too in its own way, but those 2 were basically the only ones as far as I know. And there's a lot of other good ones too, but they don't have like communities of Native Americans, like you could say Last of the Mohicans, but there's not really like a community featured there. Mm-hmm. There's like a couple of like scouts and warriors and groups, but that's it. There's not like a community or like a village like there is here or in Dances with Wolves.
I mean, just it seems to me like an incredible like bonding experience of these people coming together to make this movie. And I'm really glad that it was cast in this way and they have these people making the movie to make it seem hopefully more authentic. right? But
There's one exception, and that's Jeanette Goldstein played the bear. Bear face.
Jeanette Goldstein played the bear. Oh my God, that's so funny.
So the cast proceeded filming with 4 weeks of training camp working with weapons and personal trainers. While team building, they conceived sign language for the characters to communicate non-verbally. So they're communicating with a sign language and, of course, in English, and then also in Comanche.
So they made their own sign language.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure, some of it was based on normal,
I mean, you could tell some of the action sequences in this movie look really, really well choreographed, right? That would take a very long time to do. And it seems to be done seamlessly.
Well, I also like the way the action was shot. There's no slow, stupid, slow motion. There's no shooting at 90 frames per second and then slowing it down to 24 to make it look like there's really smooth motion in fights like we used to see in the early 2000s or the late 90s and stuff.
No.
It's all just done in camera the way everything else is shot, done very organically. And so it's the way the perspective of the characters would experience it.
And it looks real, Right? So I liked it.
There's some indulgent, shots where we see a distance shot of the misty grounds where they're trying to catch the predator, where all the bombs are going off, and we see just no more human activity after that happens. And that's great. That's fine, because you can imagine that Amber Midthunder might have looked over her shoulder and seen that.
I mean, some of my favorite action pieces in this don't involve the predator at all, right? The scene where Naru is fighting those tribesmen coming to collect her, right?
And the bear and the lion.
I mean, all those things are good. And I mean, I hope that we talk about CG at some point.
And she fights the French people too, right? She kills 4 or 5 of them back to back.
She's fucking amazing. And all of it seems just real and seamless. None of it seems choreographed to me. It seems effortless. Yeah. And I like that. You don't get to see that very often in action movies.
Speaking of which, that wasn't scripted. So Amber Midthunder actually had a particular focus on axe throwing, which led her and Dan Trachtenberg to add a rope for her quick recovery.
She was just doing that on her own?
They figured that out during training.
Oh my God.
I'm sure a lot of it was, some special effects.
Well, it had to be some
and
of
preparation and stuff, right? Because that's you're pulling a rope with I can imagine her throwing it with the rope. I can't imagine that insurance would allow her to pull it back with the rope, an axe hurling towards her, unless they were doing it with something that was foam plastic, And I'm sure they did that too. I'm sure there were lots of different tricks to be able to pull it off, but it looks real.
So in real life, would you be able to throw an axe like that?
And it seems earned, right? She figures it out. You can see her making the rope, what plants she uses to make the rope from, and all of that. And it shows that. It takes the time to show us.
And someone makes fun of her for it. Oh, you have to have a leash for your weapon. You know what I mean? I was no, she just made it better, you dumb fuck.
She's going to kill you.
Stand over there. Let's see if you can catch it. So for real though, if you were out in the woods and you had to throw an axe, could you do it? I mean, I could throw one.
That's kind of a weird question because we have bars where there's axe throwing. You know what I mean?
This is what I was getting at. So we can go to places and try it now.
And I am particularly good at it.
Okay. Well, I have never thrown an axe and I'm kind of scared that I would not be able to do it. I feel if I were drinking and throwing an axe at these places would let you do, you would probably come home without a limb.
Every time I throw that axe, a bartender dies.
I would have to go and find some orange flowers to take care of your severed leg. Once we got home from that, I'd be it's okay. I'm going to heal you.
Yellow too cheap. No, it's orange
Tootsie or something like that.
Orange Tootsie.
All I have is this orange Tootsie roll. I hope it helps.
Not again. So let's talk about the look and the feel a little bit.
Of this movie? There's a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff just came together, the casting and just the story and everything, right? But cinematographer Jeff Cutter, which I can't find a filmography for at all.
Really?
Yeah. Filmed this in anamorphic format to get, a better depiction of the vast locations using a relatively naturalistic approach without much artificial lighting to respect nature and respect the natural landscapes. So for the night sequences, he would mostly rely on torches. And I loved the night scenes. I was thinking that while I was saying, I was this actually looks like fucking night. There's not an X-Files light in the sky, where everything's subtly lit. Or there's this weird light out behind the trees somewhere, that's supposed to be the moon, but we know it's not, But they actually did it. And so, along with soft, low, underexposed amounts of blue to really replicate moonlight, but he would also put like LED lights on the backs of the torches that would further light their faces for the camera, because they had to put it on such an exposure to capture just like how nighttime it was. And I love the sequence where they put out the fires and all of a sudden you see just like moonlight. Yep. All of a sudden, and not everything's as dark because the contrast is gone. And I thought that was almost a little bit more realistic. It's like, we don't need torches, you know?
I feel like we were talking about something like this very similarly when we talked about The Witch, right?
Yes.
The way that it was filmed and how
all natural lighting, right? So it seemed really, really good. I don't know which one I feel did it better, but I mean, like, there were moments in this movie that I was just like, everything looks just normal and natural. They did some excellent filmmaking as far as just like the cinematography and just taking the time to show us the landscapes and watch her walk across them, or just show us kind of the setting before we, as we get show time passing, or as she's traveling from one place to another, to really like take all this stuff in to kind of be in that world and in that perspective. And I love that.
Well, I mean, the character herself is going on a journey of self-discovery and trying to prove herself, right? And like having these vast landscapes will also show you like how actual far her journey is, like on foot.
Yeah.
And like how lost you can be in these situations. And
we're in mountains and valleys and forests and wheat fields or whatever, cornfields or whatever the hell it was.
Or at least some like really fucking tall grass.
Rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all over that landscape in there. They used the hell out of it.
Swamps of sadness and such.
Day, night, magic hour.
I know. Her favorite time of day is night.
Yes, it is. Obviously.
Clearly.
And so I also want to talk about the music by Sarah Schachner. So she'd mostly done like video games, like Assassin's Creed series, but it was actually Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which came out in 2020, that caught Dan Trachtenberg's attention. So when he was kind of like working on this and location scouting, he was listening to different music, and that's when he's like, we need to call this woman, right? Because they don't have like, I'm sure they would have loved to get, John Williams or something, but he fell in love and knew that he could probably win her over, and he did. And I have to say, it's one of the most varied and eclectic scores I've heard in a long time, or even ever, and yet it still kind of achieves this unified feeling without ever being stuck under a repetitive theme.
I would agree. I've said this before on the podcast, I oftentimes don't recognize like scores until much later on. I think I kind of need them in a vacuum. And this movie is not the case. I feel like the music in this movie fits like every moment sort of like organically. Like it just works. And I can't really recognize anything that is used more often or like over again. It all seems to change like the movie does. It's very, very good.
Yeah, there's not really any like leitmotif around like characters. In fact, like The Predator doesn't even utilize the original Alvin Silvestri score. They like purposely, intentionally decided not to use that because it wasn't about the Predator.
That was Silvestri?
Yeah, Alan Silvestri.
Oh my God.
And it's a recognizable theme. And so, there is a recognizable theme for like the landscaping, and then there's some like recognizable themes, not even really themes though, just like percussive, tension builders, later on for like the more action scenes or the more tense scenes, but they all kind of use the same almost instrumentation in the back end, and so it's all kind of tied together, which is really, really interesting to me. And so I think like I'm really excited about this person and what they do next, and it ended up, Schachner actually recorded most of the strings herself.
What?
And of course got a Native American musician, Robert Mirabel, to provide the flute and the vocals that are kind of in the background, folded in.
There are some moments in this movie where I really noticed the score, but for me, it was the end credits. Like I really, really dug that piece of music. I think it really fit exactly what they were trying to show and portray. It kept my interest. It made me keep watching during the credits. So along with everything that was portrayed.
Yeah, and that was reminiscent of some of the action and tension beats, right? And I think that track is called The Hunter, which could be kind of compared to Brother in Arms from Mad Max Fury Road. So that's the other Mad Max reference. So I'm wondering if they're like, hey, here's some scores I really like that I want to use, and another thing was like the big landscape sweeping scenes where she's like kind of soaking in the landscape or traveling across it. The main theme is kind of reminiscent to Trevor Jones' score for The Last Mohicans. And fun fact, the main theme for that movie is the Promontory, which is an orchestration of the tune The Gale by Scottish singer-songwriter Dougie MacLean. but it's reminiscent of all of that, right? So it's like that's reminiscent of Last Mohicans, which actually took it from somewhere else, and then there's some Mad Max in there, but it's all put under the same kind of umbrella that makes it all cohesive in this score, and it's just a really interesting score, and I would highly recommend people listen to it in isolation.
Yeah, I would agree, because I feel like I remembered watching this movie for the podcast that whenever we watched it the first time together, that very last piece of music over the end credits, I was just like, I need to look this up and like add it to a playlist so I don't forget it, because I want to listen to it again.
Yeah.
And I didn't, right? So today I finally got to listen to that piece of music, and I was just like, yep, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, and the Mad Max Fury Road score was one of the best scores of that year, and some people say of the decade. And Last Mohicans, a lot of people say that's one of the best scores ever done of all time. So when we're comparing it to both of those scores, that's a really good thing.
That's right. And this is nominated for an Emmy. So, I mean, like, she could be winning an Emmy for this. And I would say that it's well deserved.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because honestly, like, we have something coming to the Emmys. And I know this happens a lot these days with, like, cable television and streaming services. But we have a movie that is just, like, very, very, very cinematic. And something that I wouldn't ever consider to be a television movie being nominated for these awards. And I was like, well, of course it has to win, like, clearly.
But I don't know what it's up against either.
I don't either, because I don't pay attention to the Emmys really. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe that weird like Charlize Theron Immortal movie is like up against it or something. I don't know.
I need to probably look this up, or just watch the Emmys this year, maybe.
Mayhaps.
Before we move on from the look and feel, I wanted to talk about like CGI for just a minute. Right.
Okay.
Because there were some moments in this movie where I literally couldn't tell if it was a real animal or like CGI.
They did a really good job. There's some moments where like the predator is jumping from tree to tree, and you can't really make the predator's invisibility like cloak, because they have to show the audience where he is, right, like, but not really show the characters where he is. So it's a weird line to walk. And so that looked a little hokey to me sometimes when the predator was like losing his invisibility cloak or whatever the fuck it's called.
Well, yeah, that. I mean, more like, so like when that...
The cloak of sadness.
The cloak of sadness. When the mountain lion was jumping into the tree and fighting Naru, right? Like, there were some moments and I was like, that looks really good to me. Like, it seems very, very realistic and like expensive. And it looked real, you know?
Well, if you think about it now, like night scenes, if there's a single source of light, like say the moon, they had their torches out by that point, right? So there's only a single source of light. So we go back to say like the T-Rex scene in Jurassic Park.
Oh, that's right.
Right. Even though it was raining, which actually hides some like occlusion and stuff, you have one source of light, which is coming from the lights, the light above the cage or whatever, and the T-Rex, and that's why it still looks part of its puppet. But the CG there is so old, but it still looks good because it's a single source of light and they got it wet, right?
It's true. And
it's dark. And so when you're able to use CGI smartly, there's a couple of scenes where I was like, that bear.
The bear. I was going to say the bear is probably the least successful.
Maybe like use like a close up of a bear, growling or something, and then cut to an action scene or something with it. I don't know. There's other ways to do it, but that's expensive too, right? It's not a bear movie. They just needed a bear for a scene. So I don't know. It's tough, but I thought there's some moments like in any CG movie where they have CG, especially with animals. It certainly looked better than The Ring 2, TWO.
Yeah, it did.
Than those deer.
Compared to those deer, all of it looked better.
Like I have a pretty sharp eye for it.
I thought even the wolf looked really good.
Yeah, because I think the wolf, they partially photographed for real.
Okay.
Part of it was, and part of it wasn't. It's when they mix those photographies. It's when something's 100% CGI in a scene. I think that's when you start to really like, this ain't no Richard Parker.
Well, it really looked like, it looked like they filmed an actual animal. And I was like, it really brings you into the movie a hell of a lot better than The Ring 2WO or whatever. Yeah. Like, fuck, that sassy deer.
Let's circle back and talk a little bit more about the language and historical accuracy now that we've kind of set the stage.
Okay.
Right. So Trachtenberg said that they discussed whether they should start the film with the character speaking the Comanche language before switching to English for the benefit of the audience, similar to the Russian language in like The Hunt for Red October.
Okay.
Which I've seen movies do before, where they kind of just like one sentence or they have like a weird transition and they're speaking the language. So we know that it's inferred with visual storytelling that they are speaking Russian or they are speaking this other language.
Correct.
I think that can work, but I think it could have been a little hokey. And so they tried it and didn't really work. So they decided just to do it in English. right? So the film was shot in English, but it was later dubbed in Comanche, with the entire cast coming back and performing in an alternate all Comanche dub of the film, which is actually on Hulu and Disney+.
So I remember watching this movie the first time with you, and didn't we say like this movie would be better if they had
all Comanche? I don't care about the transition. It's either the way it is now or all Comanche. And I actually justified half a star. I said, this might have been a 4 or 4.5 or whatever, if only they had really doubled down and made it all Comanche.
Because I remember it like saying, you know what, this is what needs to happen. This would be a much better movie if they would have doubled down on that indigenously cast and just had it all in their language and like subtitled the movie.
Because that is one thing, because, they are speaking in kind of like simplified English, but some of them actually have the cadence of like Native Americans, how you would expect them to speak versus because they're doing it naturally as the actors, or like Amber Midthunder, it's a little bit more average American accent.
I didn't realize that this dub already existed.
Yeah.
Though. And so when watching it this time, I was like, maybe we should be watching the dub, in the Comanche dub instead.
Because it is the actors that are doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to go back and watch that now just to see if it changes my experience, because I feel like it would.
Yeah. Obviously the French guys, I would assume, are still speaking French.
Yes. And the thing is that like they don't subtitle those French people anyway. Right. And I think they do that for a very specific reason, because they're trying to make you feel like the character. They're trying to make you feel like Naru. Right. She doesn't understand what they're saying. We don't understand what they're saying. And I mean, I speak enough French to get by conversationally.
But I love that they didn't subtitle it.
They didn't. And I can't understand what they're saying. Like even me knowing some French, like even every other word, I'm like, they're not speaking clearly enough for me to understand what they're saying. I hear like femme, right? And obviously merde, but like
they're from the south of France, so you get what I'm saying. Like real south,
What?
Like Arkansas, France.
Arkansas, France. Big stinky Frenchman. But I mean, I feel like they do that on purpose, right? To make us just that more aligned with Naru's character. Like we don't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on. Everything's like kind of frightening. And I love that. So, I mean, even in a Comanche dub, they don't have to have that dubbed at all. Just have them speak French. Still don't subtitle it. It doesn't change the movie whatsoever.
And that's what I thought. I was like, after the third time seeing this now, I found that the film actually kind of geniusly gets us quickly within the perspective of the Comanches, with some littered in there, especially when the only white guys in the movie are speaking French, right? And so it makes that the foreign language for us. And we are they really want us to ground us really quick with these characters.
Yep.
The best way to do that is to speak the language of the film that's coming out in our nation, you know what I mean? Which is English.
Sure. Yep.
So I think they were actually rather smart. It took me there was a little bit of a highfalutin part of myself that really wanted it to be in Comanche, but this is a Predator movie, and that would have made it extra special along with the surprise of it, had he gotten his way of it actually being a Predator.
Sure.
But I get it. And so I appreciated it more, the decision that they made there.
Yeah, because you don't want to alienate half your audience at first. You know what I mean?
When there's already an alien in the movie. Speaking of which, outside of the evil space alien hunters, the film is actually shockingly period accurate.
Is it really?
Yeah. So from the emerging Comanche horse culture, the clothing and the village setting, to the hostile French trappers, and even the period accurate toothbrush, the depiction's pretty legit.
See, and I was wondering that, especially during this watch, I was like, I wonder how much of this is like truly accurate.
It's a fucking Predator movie. They went out of their way with all these details, and the people are coming from indigenous people and saying, thank you for doing this, because it's actually really accurate.
And that's also good, because I feel like they could have easily sidestepped that and gone into some like real generalization about like Native American people, right? Like we see all the time, and especially like older films when they are, right? But they're trying to be accurate, and they're trying to have people portray the characters that should be portraying them.
Yeah.
So but like in The Witch, we found out that they had like these tomes, these volumes that they were going, to base the clothing off of and the houses off of and things like that. So I was wondering, watching this particular movie, how accurate all this was and how much research did they have to do to get there?
And that's my next question, which is what the fuck makes this movie work so well? It doesn't deserve it, right? Because there was no one on set that was saying it's just a Predator movie.
Yep.
They were making the movie they cared about, and for other reasons. And then that must have been the dialogue on set, which was, we don't care about the Predator. We're telling Naru's story, right? And this is the setting and we're grounding it, And so I still have that question though. It's like, was it because it was a passion project, that the director had a hand in the storytelling and the writing, and that, everything was, really came from like an earnest, grounded place, that it feels so genuine. Is it just like the right people at the right time? Is it because it's so simple, like a simple story and yet so detailed, like the toothbrushes and the fucking Carolina dog that they made sure to get, and I think it's all those things. And I think it's because they focused on the characters, right? Instead of the Predator. Like we said earlier, a lot of franchise sequels get lost in the monster or just rehash, and the Predator is almost incidental to Naru's story.
Well, and I feel like every other movie in the Predator franchise is like, it's all about the monster and being in different situations.
AVP, it's right there in the name, Alien versus Predator. It's about just watching the carnage.
Right. Predators, the Predator. It's all about that. It sort of like follows that monster coming to Earth, right?
And in this one is also to your point, it's right there in the name, prey.
That's right.
This one's about the prey.
It is the fucking opposite,
which is
of those movies.
Kind of what the first Predator movie was. It was more like prey.
It is, because it was the first time we had ever witnessed that particular villain, and there were like questions that we needed answers to. And I feel like even starting with Predator 2, which is a movie that I like very much, like at least when I was a kid, it still is more about the Predator than it is about Donald Glover,
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out because it's looking like our patrons have decided in our poll which Predator sequel we're going to be doing. And it looks like it's going to be Predator 2 as opposed to The Predator or Predators or Alien versus Predator Requiem.
Thank God I did not want to watch another AVP movie.
All of those will be entertaining to talk about, whether they're good or bad.
But this character is really, really good. Like we've already talked about at length, like earlier in the episode. Like she's a character I think that everybody can sort of get behind, right? Yeah. Like she's underdog, but a capable underdog. And I'd rather watch a movie about that than watch, an alien running around like slaughtering things. And we get to see that too, though.
We do.
This movie has everything that we want. And it's given to you in the right way. So all those questions that you ask, like passion project and so on, the answer is yes. We had the right people making the right movie for the right reasons, and it shows.
They were in it to win it. You're right. This movie does have everything. It has landscape and music, dogs, animals, Predator, Amber Midthunder, MTV's Dan Cortez.
Antique toothbrushes. All of it. And I'm still mad that I haven't seen it on the big screen yet.
And we haven't even talked about really Naru's like themes, her story, which is of course coming of age, proving herself. We talked a little bit about gender roles. The element, of course, survival is always, a blockbuster theme. And then, of course, to me, some of the best things that are attractive about this film, the thing under the surface to me, the fact that it's taking it so much time with the dog and the animals and the village and the landscapes and the music. The best things in life are free, right?
That's right. They're already there for you. And it's all those things. Like her story really is just like really, really good. I feel like the ending to this movie is very, very satisfying, right?
Yeah.
I feel like she gets what she wants and what she sought out for, and
but it's also bittersweet.
It is bittersweet, and she talks. Like she's there, and I feel like she's representing her brother, and it's like she gets there and she's like, "Yeah, here I am. I've succeeded in what I want, but I'm going to tell the tale of my brother, like for generations to pass down." And that's why I like the ending to this movie so much, when they have sort of these indigenous drawings, right? Sort of like telling her story up until, the cliffhanger part of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what happens in these cultures, right? Stories get passed down, including the artwork. And I just thought it was really, really fucking neat. And I kind of like the idea of revisiting these people again. Like, I know that they have plans for other things that the franchise could go into, places that would never expected, but I wouldn't be mad if we come back to these Comanche people again and see what happens like after this Predator leaves. It may change it for the worse if we have a whole bunch of Predators coming, like maybe what we see in this artwork, but I would still watch it and I would be excited for it. And I think that speaks a lot about this movie.
I think it is too. And I think it doesn't even forget even at the end where she's like throwing down the predator's head, she's also throwing down, the gun that she found.
That's right.
And then that is what she's referring to when she says it's too dangerous. We need to move. And she's not really talking about the predator. She's talking about the French trappers.
It's the people who are coming into their lands.
Which is perfect. It just brings it right back to the grounded historicity again.
It kind of makes me want to cry a little bit right now. It just like makes me feel really happy in my heart. I don't know. Like this movie is just fucking amazing when it comes to like the people that it was trying to capture and doing it in a really genuine way.
Plus in a really meta way, about this film, I'm really excited to watch the careers and the future of this cast and crew. Dan Trachtenberg, what the fuck is his next movie?
I would love, obviously Waterworld.
2 points make a line, not a pattern, but 10 Cloverfield Lane and Prey are excellent films, and then Sarah Schachner. I'd love to see what she's scoring. And I want to go back and listen to her other scores for like these games and shit, Amber Midthunder. Can't wait to see her again. And Dakota Beavers. That was his first fucking movie. I can't wait to see him again. So it's like cast and crew. Like I don't remember the last movie I saw where I was just like, okay, I want to see this whole fucking cohort of people and what they do in their careers separately or together.
I'll come back and make another movie. You know what I mean? Obviously Dakota Beavers can't be in it. His character is dead, but like, you're right. He was a really good like action star, but he was kind of like endearing and sensitive, and I like that a lot. And Amber Midthunder was really, really good in this. I think that she has a really good, promising action career, like clearly. Yeah. And she needs to be in lots of things. The music was fucking amazing. And I almost never say that. I would listen to the score just on its own. Yeah. Whenever. So bring it all. And I'm ready to talk about 10 Cloverfield Lane. So let's find a place on that on the docket, please.
We'll have to do a Cloverfield for summer blockbusters at some point.
I also like Cloverfield.
Yeah. So it's important. It's a good milestone movie.
Do you have any fun facts for me?
I do. So in August 2022, Bennett Taylor confirmed that the script for Prey revealed Billy Soul, a Native American tracker and scout, played by Sonny Landham in the original Predator from 1987, to be a reincarnation of Tob, reframing his last stand with that film's Predator as being due to subconscious memories of a past life.
What?
Yeah, I think that's a little weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Bennett Taylor also, he played Raphael Adolini, an Italian translator hired by the French. This character was first alluded to in Predator 2 from 1990 and later depicted in the comic book Predator 1718. So the engraving on the gun at the end that it kind of zooms in on for a brief second reveals it's the same weapon that the Predator gives to Mike Harrigan in 1997 at the end of Predator 2 from 1990.
Okay. I've forgotten a lot about Predator 2. So.
Yep. So yeah, you see that gun and then you see like some of the artifacts and you see that xenomorph skull in the back. And that was the first.
That's exactly what I remember from that movie and will forever for the rest of my life. Because I saw that and I was just like, oh my God.
Because all of us were just like mouth agape and pointing at the screen going,
I know. I had like the biggest 10-year-old fucking nerd boner for that. And I was like, yes!
Yeah. That was our Avengers Endgame.
Totally.
Multiple franchises?
We didn't even know the word franchise back then.
No, we did not.
Though still advanced, the technology used by the feral predator in Prey is much simpler than previous films, i.e. the camouflage sections are larger, there's less armor, and the HUD, the heads-up display, is very streamlined and simplistic compared to the other predators that we've seen, especially since this is a couple 100 years before, right? Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. And the feral predator's biomask is made from the skull of a river ghost from Predators 2010.
Oh.
So on one of their go-to planets, I guess.
I kind of liked that their tech seemed less, advanced in this movie, right? Yeah. Like
it's the first Predator ever to not have the shoulder cannon,
right? And I kind of like that because even they advance in a certain way, right? It really sets the time period really, really well. I really dig the way this Predator looks, right? With its helmet on and everything, and just the way that everything works for it. And it's just different, but it fits so well. I was very excited about that the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I like that they kind of drilled him down. He didn't have like the gas mask thing either. It was a much more huntery kind of situation. So it's just like, yes, this is humanity a few hundred years earlier, but what is the Predators with all their huge amount of technology, and what were they like a couple hundred years earlier?
And here we have it.
And so it accounts for it.
It just really fits. And you don't get to see it that much. This Predator is largely invisible in this movie. And I think that's for the best.
Because he looks a little Muppety.
Yeah.
Muppety Janice hair.
I mean, it's not a videotape, though. So, I mean, like, it could have been worse. Although, whenever the helmet's off and it finally opens its mouth to show its, like, famous teeth, and I kind of wanted to make that videotape noise from Ring 2WO and be like, wah! Just feel like it would fit.
Speaking of Muppety, the French trappers say, "I've got a bad feeling about this," and it's a trap. Oh. So those were Star Wars Easter eggs.
Okay.
Sacre bleu.
Sacre bleu. It's a trap.
So the film's main and titles were done by Filmograph in collaboration with Native American illustrators. So they were actually illustrated by Native Americans.
They look great.
Who provided an animated version of the plain style hide paintings, which depicts the film's entire narrative. Obviously, we talked about this. At the very end, the paintings include action not shown in the film. Naro, Sari, and 3 other Comanche are gathered around the severed head of the Predator. They look up and amid lightning see 3 Predator spaceships headed down from the sky towards them. We know that by Predator 2, they have that gun back. So we know it's alluded they go back down and get it somehow. So, I don't know. Hopefully our characters are okay.
I hope so.
And sorry.
And sorry.
The dog.
Sorry for sorry. That's one of my favorite parts in this movie, though, is those end credits. I just love it. And I especially love that scene where the ships are coming down and then it cuts to like the actual credits. It's just so good. And I hope to God that people kept watching when they saw that, because I immediately got interested and just fascinated as soon as the credits started. Music helps too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fun. And I'm now very excited to watch Predator 2. Seems like there's things I need to look for, but we have some questions to ask about Prey, like we do about every movie we deep dive into here at the Film Flamers. And we're going to start with, is Prey a horror movie?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's also not, though. I mean, well, no. Fuck that. It's a horror movie. It's violent as fuck.
Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. It's a horror movie disguising to be...
It's a period piece. It's a period piece horror film. It's fine.
Horror, yeah.
But I mean, like, there are some action sequences in this movie that are really fucking neat and kind of violent. Very, very violent. And I especially like when like the Predator is covered in the bear's blood and things like that. Like it truly is like a horror movie. And I felt like tense the entire time watching this. Yeah. Like I feel for my character enough to just really want to see where she's going and hope that she's safe, and the dog. So
yeah.
Were you scared watching Prey?
Tense. Yeah, certainly the first time too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about like outrightly scared, but tense for sure. Edge of your seat.
Yeah.
Always.
There were some small jumps here and there.
A couple.
Yeah, like the arrows, taking people out and then arms off and shit like that. And just like, there's moments in the grass where he was invisible and you can see the grass coming behind him, just trailing blood at the same time.
That's right.
Just like, get out of there. So like tension up to the cusp of actually being scared. Yeah, it's certainly my first time, I guess.
I feel like maybe on a larger screen. I think
I would have been maybe a really cool experience with an audience in a darkened
That's
theater.
Right. Like a shared community experience. Like
somehow bloodbaths feel good in a place like this.
Oh, Nicole. Out of 5 stars, what would you rate Prey?
The first time I watched it, I gave it a 4-star. And because of the language thing and because I'm just like, it's a Predator movie, I could not bring myself. And the second watch, I was like, okay, this is a 4.5 fucking movie. And then my last watch, which was like last night and the night before, I was just like, I think this is like a perfect movie. I feel like it's a 5-star, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. There's something just a little like, maybe it would do something just a smidge different about something. I can't put my finger on it. It really should have, based on my own description and hearing myself talk, give it a 5-star. But I rated it a 4.5.
So you kind of took the words out of my mouth. So this is the second time I've watched this movie. And the first time I watched it, I gave it 4 stars because I thought it was an excellent movie.
And I almost fucking cried at the end of it. And I was just like, why is this happening? And I'm like kicking myself. Like I'm hating myself for like reacting to this movie the way I am, almost embarrassed.
I did cry
and it's like I'm putting it in some sort of like internalized ghetto in my mind, which is preventing me from giving it a 5 star. I don't know.
So I raised mine up another half star. So I went from 4 to 4.5.
Same, yeah.
I know I was just like, this is a really, really good movie. And I really enjoyed it on the second watch. I think the one thing that keeps me from giving it a 5 star is that somewhere around the middle, I'm kind of wanting it to sort of like speed up just a tad.
Or I need a little bit more meat. I wanted one more scene with the brother or something, just something a little bit more meat for like the interpersonal conflict, not any drama or petty bullshit.
No,
but you know what I mean?
We just like the character. I want more of it.
I want more, but like, I don't know, something. So 4.5, I think, is a great score for this movie.
I think so as well. I mean, I don't think that it's a perfect movie. I think it's really, really close. I simultaneously want this movie to be a little bit longer, but a little bit shorter, Yeah. Like there's just something in the pacing or the story or something, and I don't want to say that they did something wrong because they made a really, really good movie that I'm excited to watch and want to watch again, which, kind of like raises my score up. Also, after we watched it the first time, I enjoyed it, but I don't think that I ran out and told a lot of people go watch Prey. But now I feel like I want to.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, it's been a year. I don't feel like enough people are talking about this movie. Everyone go watch this. I want people to sit down and watch it.
Especially now that I know how much detail is in it and how historically, having done like the research on this movie, and like it makes me appreciate it that much more.
Mm-hmm.
And that everyone just kind of came together and did this. And then like after having doing the Alien franchise over the past couple of years and thinking about even our return to like Prometheus and Covenant and putting those scores up to like a 4.5, which I think if gun point to head, it would be more like a 4.25 for those. It's like if I was to look at the entire Predator as of right now, this moment before having watched Predator for the first time in 20 years, putting all of the movies from the Alien and Predator franchise together, this would be my number 3, which is kind of shocking for a 2022 entry into this franchise.
You know what? If I'm thinking about everything as a whole and together, I think that you're right. I mean, as much as I love Prometheus and Covenant now, I feel like Prey is a better movie.
It would be Alien, Aliens, Prey, Prometheus, Covenant, and then, all the others, which are middling.
And I mean, this could change by next week, I guess, when we watch Predator, but
for there to be 5 movies and if you combine the Predator and Alien franchises together, 5 movies that are 4.5 or better in this franchise, or even above 4 stars, like that's a great franchise.
That's pretty fucking amazing. That's an amazing track record. The thing is that the lows of that franchise are low.
Are oh so low that it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah. We can just forget them all. But finally, who's the hottest guy in Prey?
I guess Dakota.
Dakota Beavers is really good looking.
Yeah.
Like, he has got the prettiest fucking face.
And normally I don't say that about beavers.
Same. Dakota Beavers is really fucking pretty. Honorable mention, though, the guy who plays the Predator is kind of good looking.
Well, he's like a baseball player or something, right?
He's like a basketball player. He's super fucking tall.
Yeah.
Like, he's really tall, and like he's just like has these boyish good looks. Like, he's really good looking too.
Well, Dan Trachtenberg's pretty hot as well.
I need to see what he looks like. I'm so
Boy Next Door, kind of like,
I mean, like I'm there for that. Like, boyish, nerdy next door guy who's playing video games and planning movies based on them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all about that shit. I'm here for that. So off camera, lots of good looking guys too. Well, I think that just about wraps up our conversation on Prey. As always, we would like to know what you think about this movie. Have you seen it? It's easily accessible, and so are we. You can find us on social media at The Film Flamers on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all the places.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com or call our hotline at 972-666-7733. Oh, do you want to Dakota my beaver? Call the hotline.
End it now. This ends here. This is it.
hand you a towel?
I've ended it now, all over myself.
Okay. I'm cutting you off. And I'm cutting on this AC. Oh, thank God. Anyway, as the AC whirs on, we should talk about what's coming out next week, which is Predator.
Predator.
And then over on Patreon, we're probably going to be discussing Predator 2 based on our Patreon poll. So if you want to join us over there, you can do so at patreon.com/thefilmflamers.
And get all the bonus content and let us know which Predator movie we should talk about over there. We have all the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, Robert.
Yes, Chris?
As I cool down from our wigwam sauna.
Yes. It's hot.
I need to go some sweet dreams.
Well, let's go do it. You ready? Let's just
Yes.
say it together,
Okay.
just in case.
Sweet dreams.
What's it called where you like take a drug and you go off into the wilderness and like see things? Spirit walk or something like that?
Alice in Wonderland?
Sure, if you're British. All right, let's go have one of those.
Florence Pugh? Deke?
Deke.